All right. Thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. This is Kyle with DJI, and I'm really excited to bring you probably the craziest story that I have ever had as far as a work experience. Being able to join the Drones Plus Dallas team and the DEL team to be able to go down to Guatemala and map some ancient Mayan pyramids and ruins. So this project, super excited about. We've got a couple different speakers on to be able to talk about their experiences. Just some housekeeping things to mention. We do have questions on the right-hand side. If you do want to message us with any questions during the webinar, we are happy to answer them during the Q&A section at the very end. And if you want to message anything in the chat window, you can as well. And with that, let's go ahead and go to the next slide and do some introductions. Perfect. Well, I'll go ahead and just get started. My name is Kyle Miller. I'm a solutions engineer here at DJI. Been here for about 2 years now, and I'm focused on the geospatial and surveying markets. So helping with the L2 sensor, bringing that product to fruition to launch last year. And we also have the DEL and Drones Plus Dallas team. Edwin, you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Hello, my name is Edwin Escobar. I'm the founder of DEL. It's a surveying company in Guatemala that serves the Central American region, and we're very excited to be part of this webinar.
Perfect. And
Hello,
Diego?
my name is Diego Celada. I'm part of the DEL team, and well, I'm an architect and I love droning, and I'm about to explain all the data, all the process, and the results of this mission.
Perfect. And Don?
Yes, so my name is Don Garland. I'm the owner of Drones Plus. We're a drone company based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we, in partnership with Dell and DJI, helped execute this mission.
Perfect. So to get started, we want to give some context on who the companies are, Drones Plus and Dell as well. And so on the next slide, I'll kind of kick this over to the Dell team to talk about kind of how you guys got started, where the initiative from Dell came from, and Edwin, kind of the brainchild here of what Dell has become.
So Dell is a regional company based in Guatemala. We're dedicated to provide services in the precision technology to construction surveying, real estate market, power line inspections and design, agriculture, archaeology, cadastral services. We are involved in projects such as redesign of the aerial cone for the airport in Guatemala City and other projects like that. We work a lot with the real estate market. Also, we started in the agricultural market in using spray drones. And risk assessment, emergencies, and vulnerability for cities. That's the new project we're starting now with Guatemala City and other cities around. And we were invited by Richard Hansen to be part of the El Mirador Calakmul karst basin system. And we decided to donate our time and our services to help this project that we believe is a heritage and patrimony of the world.
Perfect. I'm excited to be able to, I'm glad that we were able to help join you and help out with this project. It's also been pretty remarkable seeing the scale that you guys have grown over the past 2 or 3 years with help from Drones Plus Dallas. The Matrice 300 and 350 fleet that you guys have, the geospatial payloads that you guys have, getting into the Agris line, really becoming advanced when it comes to the drone market. And the next one, this is a really fun story that I like hearing. Don, you want to tell a little bit more about Drones Plus, and then also how you guys started working with Dell and what that partnership looks like?
Well, sure. So rather than just read the slides that anybody can do, so yeah, just a little bit about us and what differentiates us. What I think in the market is, I would say, boots on the ground. We don't sell online. We like to talk to our customers. We mainly sell to the commercial segment, and a lot of times they, they may not know exactly what they want, or they may think they know what they want, but we like to have that discussion, that kind of joint discovery. And that's how we got connected with Dell. They called around and finally found us that could talk to them and talk through their problems and talk through the opportunities. So we've had a great relationship with them, and look forward to continuing on the project.
Perfect. I love it. Yeah, and so now that we kind of understand who is a part of the project, let's kick off understanding why. So on the next slide, that is the video. I am going to go ahead and just play the video back. You won't be able to hear me during that. Here we go.
Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could share with us your work and the importance of El Mirador for the world.
Well, Dr. Escobar, we've been friends for years, but my name is Richard Hansen. I've been working in Guatemala for 43 years, exploring a vast region of northern Guatemala, 3,500 square kilometers actually of northern Guatemala, and we have. I'm the director of the Mirador Basin Project. I'm the president of the Foundation for Anthropological Research and Environmental Studies, or FAIRS, in USA, and I'm a research professor at Idaho State University. And I have been working in this country for many years. We received recognitions from all over the world, and it's been a great honor to be a part of the story here that's unparalleled in the world. There's a great, great story of humanity in the northern Petén that the world doesn't yet know. And to be a part of revealing that for the first time has been crucial. The Mirador Basin actually it's called the Mirador-Calakmul-Karst Basin System. It's an area that covers about 7,000 square kilometers, including Mexico and Guatemala. It's defined by a natural border that surrounds a ridge of hills that completely surround the whole system. And it contains the densest concentration of ancient cities in the world. An extraordinary concentration of very large and very early ancient cities. El Mirador is one of the cities in that area. It's 132 square kilometers of monumental architecture. By monumental, I mean buildings higher than 12 meters. In that 132 square kilometer area that are all concentrated in this area, indicating a dense demographic concentration of people thousands of years before Mayan civilization became known as the Classic Period. So the thing that makes Mirador so fascinating is that its size, and all the cities in the basin are very large and very, the buildings range between 20 and 70 meters high throughout the whole basin. But the size is important because it shows the conscription of labor was fantastic in that period. Not one person lives in the basin today, and yet they were able to maintain huge quantities of large populations. And the second thing that's fascinating is the antiquity. We had no idea. When Ian Graham first went in there, he ascribed the buildings, they must have been made by poor classic populations because they didn't use very good mortar, and there's no stela. There's no stela that he found. So therefore it must be a pretty impoverished classic period. But he didn't even realize that this was a pre-classic period. 1,000 to 2,000 years earlier than sites like Tikal or Palenque. So what he gives us is the chance to tell the story, to see the beginnings of complexity, to see the origins of social, political, and economic development from the beginning, and then see the dynamics that maintained it, and then see the factors that led to its collapse. And that's the value of this area.
So today we were looking at some images that we got from some LiDAR scanning, and we did some hillshades and finding new pathways and new structures. And I would like you to tell us a bit more about the importance of using LiDAR in your line of work.
Well, I have to tell you, Dr. Escobar, your equipment is unequaled in the world. You mean you have some of the best equipment in the world here. And the chance to involve a Guatemalan company in this story is fabulous for us because we're using technology that allows much more compatibility with environment, much more compatibility with the weather. We can pinpoint issues because of weather. If we have a rain cloud in one area, we can work in another area. It also allows us to process the data much more quickly, which is something we couldn't do in the previous LiDAR we did before. We did a study that we published in Cambridge University in 2022 that managed to be in the top 1% of the 24 million scientific papers ever written because of LiDAR. It shows three things. It shows an interest in LiDAR, interest in the subject, an interest in Guatemala, and it shows an interest in the Maya. And so because of that, then we think this is something that we need to further develop. And when we did that big LiDAR study over 2 big seasons with a plane, there were certain areas that we lacked. And this is where your company, boom, comes right in, and we can fill those gaps with this incredible technology, with even finer resolution, and it lets us ask new questions. It lets us form new scientific models. And it lets us develop a story of humanity that was yet not quite complete. This kind of technology makes a big difference because it's going to allow us to tell the story. It's going to allow us to reveal a page of humanity that we've never seen before.
I was impressed when you were reviewing the hillshades because we could see the causeway, the pathway, we could see the structure. But then there were these little holes in the jungle we would not understand. But in a college like you, with all your experience, you knew these were,
canteras.
People are taking material out of there in the caves. And it takes a very experienced eye like yours to identify these things for technology like this. So yeah, we're very pleased.
Well, this is fabulous. Fabulous equipment. Congratulations on acquiring this material. Thanks to DJI for their vision in supporting this kind of a thing. This is incredible that they would support you and support this company and make this possible. And it's going to help us be it's going to be historic. Everything we do here is going to be a part of history now.
We'll feel a little bit like Indiana Jones. We're going into the jungle with mules carrying generators and drones and cameras and put up antennas so you can be above the canopy. So it's going to be a great experience. But we're glad we're part of this and we can help you out with your amazing project in El Mirador. I think it's a patrimony of the world. It's humanity's being benefited by your work. So thank you.
Now, thank you. It's a great honor to work with you, Edwin, and we appreciate your company. We appreciate the companies that support you. We appreciate the products that are produced to make this so that we have a new contribution to the world.
Right.
Test. Perfect. Good. Not sure why my audio is not working, but very fun interview, very interesting interview between Edwin and Richard Hansen, who's been really heading up this project and has been working in Guatemala for decades now. So now that we kind of understand why DEL or Dell has been asked to do this, let's talk about the project scope and what this project really looks like, because it's not just gathering some batteries and going out and flying like a typical drone service provider or any pilot may do in the United States. This is incredibly remote. So Edwin, do you mind giving us a little bit of backstory on where we were able to fly to go capture this data?
Yeah, I have to say that this was like a bumblebee expedition. We were flying because we didn't know we couldn't. We got involved with this project because we've been working with Richard for years in different other areas, and he was trying to solve a third mission to finish 550 square kilometers in the northern part of Guatemala, this very dense jungle area. Like you mentioned in the video, it's 7,000 square kilometers between Mexico and Guatemala. And in their first mission, in the Guatemalan side, they scanned over 1,700 square kilometers with a fixed wing airplane, Cessna, and a large sensor, Regal sensor, millions of dollars worth of equipment. And what was to be the third mission, the plane fell down and they lost all the information, and they lacked this 550 square kilometers. But with the new technology and with DJI and the M300s and the 350s and the L1s and now the L2s, we decided to go into the jungle in April of last year. And we wanted to do a concept trial, just a proof of concept, make sure that this would work. And it was fabulous. This is a very robust technology. We were flying the drones 7.5 kilometers away from where we were into the jungle at altitudes of 120, 140, even 200 meters high with the L1s. And we were scanning the jungle. And we did 80 square kilometers in a matter of 4 days. We were doing almost 20 square kilometers a day. That's 2,000 hectares a day. Even though we took 6 M300s at that point, and we flew them almost 12 hours a day. We started 6 in the morning, we'd finish at 6 at night. And with all the complications of the weather, the climate, the humidity, the bugs, the animals, we were trying out if this could be possible, and it worked out. What we found out very early on, we'll see in the next few slides later on, when Diego shows some of the complications of that, is we needed to have a good signal, RC signal, the remote control, and the RTK signal for the drones to work. But it worked, and Richard sent Jofi Thompson, who was involved in the LiDAR project for Mirador, just to make sure that this was something that was going to work out for them. Even though this is a donation from us and they're supporting with some logistic expenses, it worked out well. Now we're excited. We found a first city, a new city that will be revealed in the next few weeks. And now we're going back and trying to sense more of that and to be shown to the world as one of the first discoveries of these new missions with DJI equipment and the L2. But we'll go into that further as we move on in the presentation. So it's a very large project, and we still have 550 square kilometers to go back into dense jungle. We'll have to do camps. We'll probably have to use an azimuth antenna to make sure this works out. But we're excited, and we're excited that it worked out. It's proven to be a robust technology and equipment for. You see, if we can solve a project in a Mirador, we can solve any other project in the world. This is probably the toughest ones we've done. We have a lot of mountains here and a lot of forests, but this is probably the most difficult one. There's no PPK signal around. There's no civilization around for hundreds of kilometers, and we're out there in this green ocean of dense jungle with no other support than ourselves and some generators and 2 sets of battery chargers for each drone for them to work all day long. So it's an interesting project.
Yes, it is. You said a couple different things that I wanted to highlight. So the remoteness, it's something that is really about untouched in any other drone project I have seen as far as true remoteness. PPK, RTK, getting corrections, that's going to be something very difficult. Just we'll see in photos in just a moment on being able to get the canopy or get the antenna above the canopy. You can also see in the right-hand side here, just the scale. This is such a huge project, and the closest population, which is a small rural Guatemalan town, is still 30, 40 miles away. And Edwin, Diego, what is it, hypothetically, if we didn't take a helicopter to go fly to this location out in the middle of the jungle to go capture the data, what does it look like to go capture this?
Well, if you were to walk from the closest small village, it takes you 3 days in dense jungle with mules. So that's just to give you an idea how remote it is. Otherwise, you have to fly in with a helicopter in a very short, pad that they have in and out, and it's really extreme. It's very hot. It's very humid, and it's dangerous. We have jaguars. We were jaguar bait for a couple of days there. Big bugs, sucking your blood all the time. But it was really about getting a high point advantage. Either you climb a pyramid that's been already explored, or you go up at a water tower in the village so you can get a signal. There you can see some images of us over the tower with an RTK strapped to the ladder so we could get signals 7.5 kilometers away. Or we used some forestry fire towers that they had on the edges of the jungle. But this is out on the outskirts. We did 80 square kilometers in this manner. But now we have to go into the jungle because we won't have this high point advantage. So now we're looking into using azimuth zero antennas from Wilbert out of England. These are military grade antennas that will have an RTK on top and will allow us to have a signal above the canopy. Even though the airplane and the Regal cameras were really good at scanning large areas, it took them years to process, and it's very expensive. Here we're using, you know, a couple $100,000 worth of equipment, you know, very accessible, very robust, and we were scanning, you know, 80 square kilometers in 4 days. So that's really good. And we were processing this information in a matter of days, hours. And what we got eventually is we got higher resolution, higher precision, and better imagery of what we were looking for. So this is going to help the archaeologists in finding new cities. We believe there's, you know, hundreds of other archaeological sites to be discovered, but at least 12 great cities that we know are out there because they're pathways that they found on the first LiDAR missions, and they know they're ending somewhere, but we need to go there in the middle of the jungle and do this. So that's what we're looking forward to the next few months. It's going back into the jungle and making sure we can scan these new cities and find them first. We already found the first, and we're very excited about that. There's a new series of TV shows out of the Salinas Group of Mexico coming next month called the Kingdom of Khan that will showcase this technology, what we've been doing, discovering these new cities. And eventually there's some chapters I understand from National Geographic on lost cities of the Mayan. So we're very excited to be part of this. You know, we're contributing with the heritage and patrimony of the world. You know, this is one of the last lungs of tropical jungle out there that are still being looked for conservation.
That's really exciting. And it's also exciting to see that UAS can scale up to be able to tackle projects even of this scale. It may not be as quick as far as data capture specifically when it gets versus manned aircraft, but you run a lot less risks. You get higher resolution data, like you said, and it's something that you can scale up and scale down as needed. And in Guatemala, you guys are flying, you know, 3, 4, 5 drones at a time, and you guys are also flying at 140, 160 meters with a LiDAR sensor like the L2 getting a lot farther distance where we are able to go out and capture. So Diego, maybe this is a good time to talk a little bit about mission planning before we go out to the site.
Yes, of course. So as Edwin was saying, we had gone previously before going into the L2 to the jungle and had mapped out and had an experience over there where we were taught the hard way by the environment and the conditions, which adjusts and changes we had to make in order to complete the missions, such as we had to find an opening to have the drone fly so we can keep a horizontal view of the drone and we do not lose signal, for example. What it means flying in the jungle, well, we have humidity problems. So as soon as we take out the batteries from the drone and wait around 10 or 15 minutes, regardless of that time wait, we cannot charge the batteries yet because the humidity won't allow the batteries to completely cool down in order to be 100% charged, for example. The ever-changing environments, Guatemala is full of microclimates, so it's unpredictable to know when it's going to rain. All you see is just the huge dark cloud coming over towards you, so you have to pack your bags and live on top of the pyramid, for example, as we did in this mission. We even took generators to the jungle in order to keep cycling the batteries so we can cover more area within the daytime frame that we had. That was not enough because the chargers, as I previously said, the humidity won't let you charge completely the batteries, and you have to keep on moving these generators, these heavy generators, in order to be able to charge the batteries, and they take a lot longer than it would if you were to plug it into a wall. The RTK antenna above the canopy, well, we have the next slides. We have a couple slides showing how we could solve this azimuth 0 antenna that Edwin was talking about. And well, there's always changes in the mission planning once you're on site. So the importance of having a high ground so you can see and evaluate the area that you're about to fly, so you can make the changes on site on the mission.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I'll add one more on there. Data size. We're going out with the L2 capturing maybe 20 plus gigabytes per flight if we're doing all 5 returns, and we're doing 10 plus flights per drone. And if you're going out at weeks at a time, that's also making sure that you have very secure data storage that's not going to be harmed in these extreme environments. One last thing I want to mention as well, with these extreme environments and the sheer amount of batteries that we ended up taking, what does it look like as far as making sure you have a really tight partnership with the manufacturer and a distributor within that manufacturer?
Well, I have to say, working with Drone Plus Dallas has been fabulous. We have a local distributor, Canea, which is really good, but they don't distribute LiDAR equipment. And so we had to find someone that would support us globally. And since we have presence in the United States, we were able to purchase this equipment in the United States and have the support of Drone Plus Dallas. And it's been wonderful. We would have emergencies where someone would fly from Guatemala into Dallas and fix our equipment and come back the next day. But having the support and on site, Drone Plus would come to Guatemala and also support us here in helping us understand this technology. And in over a year and a half, we're close to being 2 years old as a company. We, like I said, we were like a bumblebee because we didn't know we can fly, but we were flying, and we started with 1 drone, and now we have 6, M350 platform technology with, dozens of batteries and chargers and various RTK antennas, and we've got all the sensors you might think of. We've got the share equipment, we got the Mica sense, we've got the DJI cameras, we got all of them. We have 4 L1s and we have 2 L2s now working for this project, and it's been a wonderful experience having a global company that could support us globally, and not just Guatemala but also regionally. We had an experience last week where they would fly in and help us with a client with new equipment, and we got the project solved, and then they left on Monday, and the client is very happy with the results. And for this case also in Mirador, having DJI and Drone Plus with us throughout the missions has helped this mission move forward on new advancements in technology. We understood we needed 2 battery chargers for each drone for them to work in these extreme weather conditions. With a generator on site, we had 3 generators. By the way, having various RTK antennas, these drones were working 12 hours a day, nonstop. So I could say this is very robust, like I mentioned before, and we needed to have other people see the complications we had. Now we were working on an extended power source for the RTK, getting it over an antenna, and remote control on it, have boosters on the antennas, and all these things that we're working with the engineering of innovation of DJI. So we're excited that we're right there on the edge of the pioneering of new solutions for DJI. I'm sure that some of the things we'll be doing here will be some advancements in future products for DJI, because we found we're taking the technology to the limit. You should do 3 rebounds, you should do 2, and maybe they were thinking in US standards, And when we processed information was great. We had a lot of noise, and when we saw the results with the L2, when we saw the comparables with 5 rebounds, it was obvious that we had made a mistake by having only 2 rebounds with the L1 instead of 3. But the proof of concept was that we could do this. We could scan large areas in a day. It takes us a few months to cover 550 square kilometers. So we're doing as much as a fixed air wing with an equipment that is more accessible for companies like ours, and they can also provide higher resolution, better precision, and that it's capable of doing other things that you can do with a fixed air wing. We can do an oblique LiDAR mission on these pyramids, on these sites, and we can provide the archaeologists with much more information. You can see the hillshades from what was done in 2015, 2019, and they're all smoothed out. But when you see the results on Terra and the new version of Terra, you can see the the staircases of the pyramids. You can see a lot more detail that you can see before, and all these new options of profiles and so on. We're providing better tools for archaeologists to be make a better assessment of these great cities. Richard mentioned this, but it's, if I'm not wrong, they had an assessment that they had probably 20 million people back then when this city was in its best moments. That's more than the population of Guatemala today, modern Guatemala. So it's really impressive when he talks about all the resources that were necessary to build these pyramids, millions of people. So this is very important. These discoveries are in the upfront of science and archaeology in the world. So being part of this is really, it's a great privilege for us. And using DJI technology, which has proven to be the most robust for these conditions, is something that has inspired us to even purchase more equipment. We're getting more L2s now, and we have 2 now for this project. We're getting 2 more, and we're looking forward. So I think, I don't know if Kyla's got mic on, but we should move on forward and explaining the L2.
Yeah, are you guys able to hear me again? I apologize about my previous audio. Better? Okay, cool. So you may have seen on the previous photo that the canopy, just taking a photo looking up from the ground level, and how dense that canopy is, as well as how tall that canopy is. And being able to get corrections for LiDAR to understand the offsets and understand where we are in the world is going to be very important. And so this has definitely been one of the struggles, and a great photo that Diego has created to understand what the challenges truly are when you're going out and mapping in an area where you don't have a pyramid to go and stand on top of and put your RTK antenna on or your PPK antenna on. So, yeah.
Well, the water content in the jungle is very high. Our first trial, the first day we went out to the jungle, we were setting up the equipment on the trails. You have to understand, there's no roads here. There's limited roads on the edges of the El Mirador Calakmul karst basin. The rest is trails. You have to go in with mules, and machetes, and you have some of the gummers, the people that collect the gum, the sap from the gum trees, junglemen that help you out into the jungle with this equipment. So it's very Indiana Jones, So we found some of the logging trails, and we set in this logging trail. We had maybe 6 meters of opening for us to, get an RTK connection on the trail and lift off the drones. But it was interesting because that first flight, we can fly more than 150 meters away. We lost all our RTK and all RC signal immediately. The sun was so dense that the water content on the trunks keeps it's a great obstacle for the equipment. So what we did that same day is we did another proof of concept. We went on the edge of the jungle where we had a view of the horizon. That's the second option there you can see on the slide. And from there we could fly 7.5 kilometers away. And we were sometimes losing 30% of the battery just getting to the site and starting the mission. So even the last parts of the mission, we were doing 5-10 minute missions, to finish that section. So obviously all the techniques of being in the middle of the area that you want to scan are still, are universal. Being at a high stance point is also universal, but sometimes you don't have those conditions, and that's what these drones are made of, to access places that are inaccessible, and they worked out very well. So that's where we came out with the idea, well, we have to find high points. So we went on the towers for the fire towers, went out on the water towers on the village. And then we found this Wilbert antenna in England that we're getting now, that we're gonna put out there in the jungle camps once we go inside the jungle, because we'll need that high stance. And the results are incredible. It just, your downtime is less, and allows us to work under the shade, under the trees. You can connect the RCs with a cable, coaxial cable up to the antenna, and you're on the ground seeing everything from the drone. You don't have to be necessarily on top of a tree or a tower or a pyramid to get this advantage. So that's some of the things we're working out now.
Excited to see the progress there. Definitely one of the biggest challenges for this project, I would say, and having to carve a hole in the canopy and sticking a antenna 100 plus feet up is definitely a challenge. If we want to keep moving on, Diego. I do have a couple slides here just talking about the L2 and highlighting the different functionality. You probably have seen these slides before. These are the same slides that we kicked off at Energio, so I'm going to be fairly brief here. A couple things I do want to highlight, though, with the L2. If you want to just go to the next slide, Diego. First off, 5 returns versus 3. If you want to go up. Yeah, perfect. So 5 returns versus 3 and having a smaller beam divergence, that's definitely going to help being able to get points on the ground. So when we get into the data analysis side where Diego gets to, you're going to notice even compared to the L1, the sheer amount of points we're actually hitting the ground through this very dense canopy in Guatemala has been able to get us really dense digital terrain models that we can then find even the smallest little artifacts that may have been something thousands of years ago, even if it's a hole that's 2 or 3, 4 feet wide. If you get a couple points down in there with those 5 returns, it's been very beneficial. One of the other aspects too is just scalability. So the efficient data collection. We can now fly compared to the L1 much, much higher. So in this situation in Guatemala, being able to fly 140, 160 meters off the ground and still getting points all the way to the ground with accuracy is tremendous. So you can see the typical coverage, if you're looking for the same density of point cloud and the same accuracy of that point cloud, we can now fly with the L2 5 times larger of a mission compared to the L1, which is huge in this situation. When we're talking Guatemala mapping like this, it's all about scale, distance, and then also accuracy.
You know, those 5 minutes for the IMU warm up on the L1 is probably the longest time I've always been waiting. For all of us that fly the M300s or the M350s on the L1s, it's, you know, it's a desperate time. You want to go up in the air and you have to wait for it to be ready. But the L2 doesn't have that, so it's a big change.
I love that you threw that out there, Edwin, too. It's just the nice little pieces that the L2 becomes more of an all-around, easier to use unit. So here's the mission planning, or how we had missions going on, where Diego and I up at the top of the pyramid at El Mirador being able to maintain video connection, maintain RTK or PBK connection. We are using RTK here, and then also just to be a visual observer. But then you had other team members like Garrett from Drones Plus at the second level of the pyramid, and that's in the shade, where we could also do have the generators running and do some battery swaps there. So you can kind of see how we were set up to be able to capture these large sites over the couple days. Yeah. And now I'm really going to be handing this over a bit to Diego to talk about what we found. How does it compare to the L1, as well as how does it compare to some of the other LiDAR that's been captured on this site?
Well, yeah, of course, it's pretty interesting, the great difference that it is having 2 or 3 rebounds all the way up to 5 with the L2. As we can see on screen, we can see just some technical data of the parameters for the flight and the missions. And what we're really interested in here is looking at the ground point density, which is the ground points per square meter. This is post-processing, so it's already being processed in Terra. And well, the amount of ground points that we can get with the L2 compared to the L1, it's almost 3 or 4 times the amount of ground points. How does it reflect? Well, once we start extracting the DEMs from the data that we collected, we can see on the right, on the top right, the L1 in the hill shape filter, which is a filter that a lot of archaeologists use, which is basically just moving the sun around, so the shadows contrast what's being seen from above. And on the bottom side of the picture, you can see the L2 hill shape DEM being processed already. So you can see a clear difference in the noise just by barely looking at it, how much noise the L1 gave once it was processed. However, it's good to mention that since we flew on 2 rebounds that time that we flew with the L1, that's a big difference in the amount of ground points. Even though 2 rebounds means more points per square meter, it does not mean it's more ground points per square meter on the area that's being analyzed. And here we can see a comparison table of the L2 with the Regal. Why am I comparing the Regal with the L2? Because we want to know the difference in the quality of the data that's being mapped out with the remaining points that are missing on the whole El Mirador Calamut Basin. And what I really want to highlight here is the big difference in the ground points. So if the studies that were made in 2015 and 2018 with 2 ground points per square meter gave enough data and enough information to let archaeologists know that there's a pyramid or a structure in the jungle, imagine what 34 points per square meter, ground points per square meter can actually reveal. I'll show in the next slides some of the process data, and you are able to see even the steps on the pyramids.
And I might add
here,
ahead.
Kyle, that there's two concepts that need to be considered, especially for archaeologists. One is they believe that more ground points is more noise. And the reason they think this is that when they did their first mission, it took them months and years to process all the information. So when we told them that we were having more ground points, for them was like, well, it's going to take longer to process. And we're processing this with Terra with a server here at the office. We have various servers, but very quickly, very fast. It's a matter of days, for us to process all this data. Secondly, what they did with that fixed air wing is faster and higher. So the sensors are bigger. These are very expensive Regal sensors. They're really good sensors. But the plane is flying higher and faster. But with these drones, we're flying slower and lower. And that provides also much more information with the quality of 5 rebounds. The Regals had 10, 15 rebounds, for them to get 2 or 3 points per ground. So we believe that this is a much better solution, technical solution for what we're looking for.
Yep. Okay, and just to finish up this slide, well, the thing is, at the first time we were flying, we were just scouting. So the finds that we found, or the points of interest that we found upon flying, were just made by scouting areas that we didn't know what was in there. Now that we know what's in there and what's the trajectory or the direction that the causeways are taking, or where the pyramids could be, it's easier for us to pinpoint and map out with more precision and more ground points what's actually underneath the canopy on those points of interest.
Actually, in one of these images, there's 2 structures you can see there that we saw, and we didn't see it at first sight because we're not archaeologists. But when we found it, we were excited. And when you look deeper into the image, you'll see a rectangle at the left bottom corner, and then on the left middle corner, you'll see a line, and that's the causeway of the Mayans. So when we went deeper, there it was. But when Richard came to the office, he was seeing a lot more structures than we were because he can identify them much better. He's an archaeologist. So we were excited that this was providing much better information than what they got in 2015 and 2019 with an equipment that is, tens if not hundreds of times cheaper than what they used back then. So we're very excited about that. So maybe move forward and you'll show.
Yeah. Cool. Let me go ahead and pop on the next video. Presenter, I'll go back here. And let me show the video from Josie.
Before. It was a large endeavor. The funding of this was.
Hello.
Sorry, did you want to share anything before Edwin, before the video?
Oh, just saying that Josie Thompson, who was with us in this proof of concept when we used the M350s and the L1s, was excited about that. For the first time, she was seeing real-time imagery of the LiDAR on the RC Plus controller, whereas before they had to wait months and years for them to get all the information. She's the one in charge of funding this LiDAR project that was done in 2015, 2019. And actually their office is in Silicon Valley, so yeah, you should share that.
It's fun to see their eyes light up as just literally every month it seems like LiDAR keeps advancing and becoming more affordable for situations like this. So when it comes to archaeology and LiDAR, it's been advancing tremendously fast.
Hello, my name's Josephine Thompson. I'm here on Mirador Conservation's rooftop in Redwood City, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm here today to share with you some very interesting finds deep in the heart of the Guatemalan jungle. These finds have been made possible due to the latest technology called LiDAR mapping, light detection and ranging, that we completed in 2020 and finalized our LiDAR publication with Cambridge University Press in 2023. Today here I have the fire map, which shows the location of El Mirador close to the Mexican border, and the high density and concentration of sites surrounding El Mirador. As well, we see the encroachment of fires due to new homesteading in the region. Our mission is to save this wilderness zone that is close to 2 million acres. LiDAR has amplified this concentration and helped us prove that this cradle of civilization dates back to over 500 BC. In 2015, Ferris Foundation contracted with Eagle Mapping from Vancouver to fly a Cessna plane documenting over 1,700 square kilometers of the Mirador-Calakmul karst basin. Data was captured of this dense natural and cultural zone in 2 phases using a Regal LMS Q1560 LiDAR system. The system had a 0.25 MRAD light beam divergence with a nominal pulse density of 20 pulses per meter square. The plane flew 600-meter swaths with an overlap of 60%. The average return density, including vegetation, was 42 points per meter square, and the ground return density was 3. The deliverable was 500 square meter tiles. The overall LiDAR survey accuracy is plus or minus 15 centimeters horizontal and plus or minus 30 centimeters vertical. Quick Terrain Modeler was used to create bare earth digital elevation models with a half-meter resolution. Prior to LiDAR, our mapping team slogged through the mud with total station equipment, GPS, and traditional map and compass surveying. More stats can be found in our Ancient Mesoamerica publication. So now you've seen how important this natural and cultural landscape is that the first 2 phases of LiDAR has documented. Prior to the LiDAR study, we only knew that less than 200 ancient settlements existed. Now we know that 775 ancient settlements exist in this jungle, in this wilderness zone, and they are all interconnected with over 177 ancient causeways. One of the most exciting parts of this project, working with drone technology provided by DJI and worked in the field with DEL, Edwin Escobar and his team. Our last publication with Ancient Mesoamerica has reigned in the top 5% globally of all scientific publications. Please download with this link, share with your friends, cite in your papers, and contribute to the El Mirador project to save this extremely important cradle of civilization, this natural cultural zone deep in the heart of the Mirador jungle.
Great.
I love that video. It just truly talks about the scale as well as the previous experience with that manned aircraft. Cool.
Okay.
And you guys should be able to hear me still. Still got good audio. Perfect. And so Diego, let's take a look at the actual data that was processed from the Acropolis.
Yes, of course. So after giving you all the context of the whole challenges and what it meant flying, we're actually going to dive into some actually data and process and what was actually the results. So what we can see on the left is a DEM hillshade of the Great Central Acropolis. This is what we flew, looking at the videos and the GIFs that were throughout the presentation. This is exactly where we were mapping. So you can see here the great difference and the definition of the structures inside this great central acropolis. This was made with the 30 ground points per square meter that we talked about before the video. And on the right, you can see a small video, a GIF of what it looks like actually being processed already in Terra. So you can see using the new function of filtering out which is a ground point and what is not a ground point, we can actually remove the canopy, remove the vegetation, and actually see the structures that are hidden underneath the canopy. So we can go into full screen pictures that we can see actually with more definition of what it looks like on these models, on these 3D models, and all the things and the pictures that I'm about to show you, it's taken out from Terra. So what we can see here is the pyramids complex of the Great Central Acropolis without the vegetation. And well, adding to this data, we can add profiles now on Terra. So we were playing and testing out what it looked like if we were to draw a profile and give it a little bit more of width and understand how it looks like with the processed, the data that we mapped out. So we can actually see that if we remove the vegetation, we are actually able to see in the profiles, even up the staircases. You can see some black spots or missing parts. That's because most of the pyramids were covered with nylon when we flew. So, you know, nylon being black and it just consumes the laser, so it does not rebound. What we can see now on screen is a picture of what actually it looks like being on site. Well, it's already processed, but this is all you see. All you see is just vegetation, trees, and a dense jungle. So once we map out and we filter out the points of the process, we are able to see the little pieces on top of the pyramids that are marked out with a different color. And once we remove the vegetation, we're able to see the whole structure. The ground points, and you know that all of these points are measurable, so we can actually measure distances and heights, everything related to the point cloud, because it's areas, volumes, so we can determine with more precision what we're analyzing and well the dimensions and the possible outcomes that we might use that data for. And this is just one last set of profile widths of another pyramid. This is El Tigre, which is where we flew from. In all the pictures, you can see the two platforms. Well, this is basically the pyramid, and you can see clearly the middle platform where we were taking off and landing the drones, and the top of the pyramid, that is where Kyle and I were keeping signal strength and the RDK signal.
Just to give you a scale, the Danta pyramid, which is not shown on this presentation today, which is bigger than these, is in volume bigger than Giza in Egypt. What they thought was a mountain, you can see it there, is not a mountain, it's a pyramid. They built the platform and then they built this huge structure, and on top you're seeing the little bit that they cleared out for archaeological purposes. So this is huge.
Just to get that right, Edwin. So volume-wise, if we're talking volume, the largest pyramid in the world is one that we were just 2 or 3 miles away that we were flying over. Yes,
the tallest one is Giza, but the largest one in volume is the Danta. So this is incredible. But Richard mentioned that the Mayans built this city thousands of years before the pre-classic period of the Mayans. The Mayans that we had studied for many years, and they thought there was a pre-classic, classic, and post-classic. It just happened there was another civilization of Mayans that were classic before that. And it's a wonderful story if you want to follow that on the El Mirador karst basin system with Richard and his team. There's a lot of these videos out there in National Geographic and Discovery Channel, Planet, and so on. So we're happy to be part of this.
So lastly, I want to thank everyone for your attendance. If you'd like to go in depth in the subjects that were talked about, you can scan the QR codes on the top right. It will lead you to the Cambridge paper that Josie was referring to, and you can also scan it for the webinar, and we'll add up one for our white paper that was written for this project with discoveries and a little bit more technical data that is in there.
Yeah, so there's a white paper so you can reference all of our work using the L2. We're very excited to go back actually going this next Sunday for 3 days to finish this new city that we just discovered. And we want to show off to some great personalities. There's a fundraising dinner first week of February where they want to show off these results. And there's some great personalities coming over, and we're excited to help Richard and his team. And with the support of DJI and Drone Plus, who supported us all the way. So we're thankful for that.
Love to hear that, Dell team and Edwin and Diego. That also led into my next question. You kind of answered it already. What's the next step, Edwin? What does the next month, 3 months, 6 months of this project look like? It's going back out and doing a lot of flying?
It looks like Indiana Jones. We're going in with mules and generators and camping gear and cooks and junglemen, and it's a big crew. And we're going deep into the jungle and using all these things we've been innovating with you guys at DJI and engineering team, finding ways to get the RTK above the canopy, get this height stance advantage. We're flying in with DHL some new batteries because we need to have at least 16 batteries per drone to have a full cycle throughout the day. These drones will be working 12 hours nonstop from 6 in the morning till 6 at night. You know, it's a matter of light. We have to open some clearing out in the jungle so we can have this place where we can lift off 4 or 6 drones at the same time with L2s. It's an interesting sight actually to see this work out, and how the equipment just is so reliable. You know, when we started a year and a half ago, you know, we were new at it. You know, we were scared about, you know, flying the drone too far away, you know, off our sight. Actually, after 1.5 kilometers away, you can't see the drone anymore. You know, so when you have 7.5 kilometers away, you don't know where your drone is. You know, and all of a sudden you see this black cloud, and the drone is signaling that there's too much water out there, so you bring it back. But what we found is, of course, we have had 0 accidents, but the first 3 months we had a few. You know, we were learning. We're pushing the technology to the limit. How much you can do with it. But the RC Plus is a big difference. It's helped a lot. The new batteries as well, TP65s. The 350s have, you know, an advantage with their backside antenna over the 300s. So we're using 350s now on that. The L2 is obviously a very robust camera. The L1 is a good sensor, I have to say. You know, we've done all of our business with all of our other industries, you know, electrical and real estate and cadastral investigations, all this with the L2 and the P1s and all the other cameras and sensors we have. But the L2 is just giving us this ability to have more ground points in high density canopy for forestry and other applications. It's just, there's less noise. So we're happy with the L2. It's a camera that's giving us much better quality than this huge sensors that are high quality that, you know, we can't speak bad about any of these technologies. They're great. You know, they're pioneers in what they do. You know, these are big, heavy equipment. But here we are using DJI equipment in the jungle, you know, and we're getting 80 square kilometers in a week. So we're excited to, you know, take a few months off and do this in the next few years, because we won't be able to do this on a continuous basis. We'll probably do 1 week and then 2 weeks because it's too much time in the jungle. But that's what we're looking forward in the next few months, and looking forward and having DJI all the way from corporate offices and the innovation engineering group help us out with the extension of the RTK and the external power source and all the things we're working out with you guys, and the support of Drone Plus has been fabulous. You know, Don and Garrett and Teresa have been on the ground with us, figuring out how to work this out, and that makes a big difference. You know, most of the equipment we've purchased, you know, we buy the equipment and then we're left alone. How do we figure out how this works? You know, the software. We believe that we are innovators. We're pioneering with new softwares, with new equipment. As soon as they get out, we get it. You know, I was surprised by you guys that most companies in the world have 1 or 2 drones at most. You know, we have 6 of these 350s, and we just didn't know we were one of the largest ones to have so many on a fleet. but we found that necessary to cover large areas in small periods of time. You know, we need to cover more in a day, so we had, why not fly 6 drones, you know? And we were flying 2 drones each, you know. So we're happy we're doing this, and excited to keep on trying out new equipment. It is a privilege for us to try out the L2 before it was launched in Berlin, and to do this in El Mirador in Guatemala it's great for us. You know, we're putting Guatemala up there on the map again, and this great project that Richard's leading, and that we believe so much in it, that we're donating our time, we're donating our equipment, we're donating as much as we can for it to keep on getting more resources to discover what's ever left out there. It's going to be a great legacy and heritage for our next generation. So we're proud of this, and thank you all for this.
Love it. And once again, like I said at the very beginning of this presentation, it's got to be the craziest drone story that I've had in the past decade plus working with drones, and that's 5-fold compared to the next story. So while you're thanking DJI and Drones Plus as well, we really need to thank you, DEL, for tackling this project, for going through proof of concept, getting through stage 1. Now we're starting to look at stage 2 and rolling out this across the entire El Mirador Basin. And we're going to continue to support you guys as much as possible. So as this project keeps going, I did see, Diego, you added an extra QR code for the white paper that you guys created with the L2. And there will be plenty of updates over the next couple months, as some of the hints that Edwin had of maybe finding something that seems pretty interesting, as more of that gets uncovered.
Well, maybe we could even show something today. We can't say where it is, but, you know, we could show something regarding the detail, and you'll be able to see what we finally saw. We were looking at these hillshades, and, you know, they'll look the same, but when you look closer, there it is. There's the pathway, and there's the structure. We found the first structure. We found the first highway. And the Mayans didn't build highways this big, with this amount of resources high above the ground, to lead to something that was not important. So they all lead to great cities. And we just found one of those great cities with L2s and DJI technology. So maybe Diego can show just a little hint of it. We can't say where it is. It's part of our deal with Richard. We need them to launch this, but you can see the structures there. You know, it's easy to fly the Acropolis because it's already been researched, you know, but we could compare the information. It was much better with the L2. But here you can see, we'll have Diego zoom into it if he can. And then you can see the causeway, you can see the little line up in the left corner where the yellow point is in the square. And then you can see other structures where they had their canters, where they were taking all the materials. And Richard's was very interesting because he found all these holes on the side of the highway. And he said, well, future generations of Mayans found this great structure, and they thought it was easier just to take material from there to build new pyramids. And that's why you see those all those little holes on the same regression of the line. You know, we would not know that if our college was not involved. You can see some caves to the right. So now we're excited because we're going back and we're looking for this new city that we know is there at the end of this highway. And it will be done with an L2, and it will be done with DJI technology. So you'll be part of one of the world's new discoveries.
Love that story. And also love that you're leaving this little piece, dangling this little piece of candy out for us at the very end of the webinar. I'm excited to see how this keeps progressing as Richard Hansen's able to and you guys bring this all to light. So extremely excited. Couple last things. I know that we're at the top of the hour, we're actually 5 minutes over. If you do have any extra questions, feel free to leave the questions in the box real quick before we end. I'm going to take all of the questions. We'll answer them as a team, and we'll be able to follow up with you after the webinar. Anything else, Edwin, Diego, Don, that you'd like to add before we close off?
We'll be publishing some videos on YouTube regarding some of the things we showed you, so you can have more information in detail that I think will be very helpful. We found very helpful the ecosystem of DJI, finding all the videos on how to use the drones, the cameras, even the software companies that were, but there's always things that are left out. The greatest secrets aren't always shown. And how do you get contour lines with the survey software? And so we believe we need to support that as well, because a lot of people are finding this technology accessible and they're buying their drones or buying their cameras, but we need to close the gap on how it is that we do this. How do we get this far? And we hope to be part of that solution with DJI. So come with us.
Love it. Love it. Don,
Well,
all good from your side?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
I
a believer
can, sorry.
in learn by doing, and we've done a lot on this project, and we've learned a lot, and it's allowed us to share with other customers that experience, and has allowed them to expand their business and go into new and other opportunities. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with DJI and DEL on this project, and learning more, doing more and learning more.
Perfect. Well, from all of us on this call, we really thank you all for attending. We'll send out the video recording once that's completed. But everyone out there, fly safe, and excited to go back to Guatemala the next opportunity I get.
There you are.
Perfect.
Great.
We're starting on Sunday again. You're welcome.
Let me look at what flights are. Cool. Thanks, everyone. We'll be talking soon.
Thank you.